Welcome to the Board of Education meeting. Go ahead and call the meeting to order. Recitation of vision statement. Every school will be a thriving school that prepares every student to graduate from high school, college, career, and community ready. I do want to start out with a moment of silence. We'd like to ask for a moment of silence this evening for our district to recognize the passing of LVM Elementary School teacher Linda Forst. Linda taught at LVM for over 30 years. Linda had a sincere love for the children she worked with, and she loved the challenge of seeking out the special ways to teach each child. She was an expert educator, role model, and mentor for so many others over all the years she taught. Most importantly, she has had an unforgettable impact on the lives of students. Linda's passing has taken an incredible toll on her over 500 former students, many other students who knew her dear colleagues, and hundreds of families across MMSD. We remember her tonight. Please join me in participating in a moment of silence in honor of Linda. Thank you. The Board of Education will recognize 24 high school students this evening across the district who completed the high school research internship program. Exemplifying the culture of excellence embedded in our strategic framework, 24 high school students from across the district completed the high school research internship program, working with mentors from the University of Wisconsin-Madison over 9 weeks. Last summer, students conducted a research in science and engineering and presented their findings in November at Steenbach Memorial Library. Tonight, we'd like to recognize these students for their considerable accomplishments. We'd like to read a formal resolution to commemorate your work and ask that the students come to the stage at this time. Are you all in the front? Yep.
Come on up.
Come on up. Or one at a time, I'm sorry. So I'd like to invite each student to take the microphone and introduce yourself by stating your name, the name of your mentor, and your project title. I would also ask the audience to please hold your applause until all of the students have been introduced. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Yes, okay. Hello, my name is Hansak with Professor A.J. Boydston, studying how to make multicolored 3D prints using that photocolor language.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Celia Michaud. I worked with Dr. Melissa Scala in her biomedical engineering lab last summer. My mentors were Amani Gillette and Rupsa Dada, and my project was a comprehensive study of redox ratio and cell viability under multiple metabolic stresses.
Hello, my name is Simone Vorparian. This summer I researched the accurate classification of point spread function stars using near-infrared color plots. I worked under Professor Keith Bechtel, and the research that I did is currently being implemented in cosmological surveys.
Hello, my name is Elena Igich. This summer I had the pleasure of working with Dr. Dawn Davis in her endocrinology lab. The title of my project I worked on was MOGAT2 deficient mouse models are protected from beta cell apoptosis. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Karuna Bhatt. I worked under Arkadipta Bakshi in Simon Gilroy's lab, and I studied the effects of flooding on different acrotypes of Arabidopsis thaliana.
Hi, I'm Mateo Vargas Nunez. I worked with Michael Koenigs on researching the prefrontal cortical thickness of psychopathic inmates.
Hello, my name is Joshua Jacobson. I worked with John Buski, my mentor, and my project was multipath fading and its destructive effects on multipath wireless communication.
All right, hello, my name is Robert Murphy, and I worked with Mentor Thomas, and I worked on the dynamic walking with Mechanical Engineering Department.
Hi, my name is Arushi Vyas. I worked with Professor Pamela Krieger on how epidermal growth factor affects.
Hi, my name is Ethan Dong. I had the opportunity to work with Professor Peter Adamczyk in mechanical engineering on analyzing the energy efficiencies of hip-driven versus ankle-driven walking motions in a rimless wheel robot.
Hi, I'm Lamiz Al Hassan, and I was fortunate enough to work with Professor Khatib in his genetics lab this summer, and I tested CD68 and FCEG1R expression in ITGB2 knockdown porcine aortic endothelial cells.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's a small circle. All right. Go ahead and read it.
You want to go ahead? Yeah.
Okay. Whereas 24 Madison Metropolitan School District high school students participated in the 25th annual 2019 High School Research Internship Program. Whereas through this program, each student was paired with a UW-Madison researcher and over the summer conducted authentic research, spending a minimum of 25 hours a week for 9 weeks, developing and researching various questions, designing protocols for data collection, and collecting data over the course of the summer. Whereas in the fall semester, each student intern wrote a formal research paper, designed a scientific poster, and communicated the findings to a larger audience at a scientific poster session celebrating the completion of the internship, teachers, friends, and family members. Whereas upon completion of the summer research and fall requirements, each student intern earned three-quarters of one high school science credit, as well as one UW-Madison credit in independent studies. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Madison Metropolitan School District Board of Education recognizes, congratulates, and thanks all of the high school research interns for their remarkable achievements. Be it further resolved, this statement be permanently imprinted in the Board of Education minutes for the meeting of November 25th, 2019.
We are so proud of our students. All right, so approval of minutes. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the minutes from the regular meeting dated May 20th, 2019.
Second.
So, second. You got it? Okay. Nika, your advisory vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are passed. Now we have public appearances. Okay, we have 7 public appearances tonight. First one is Zon Moa.
Hello? Hello, can you hear me? All right, so hi everyone. So I guess I'll just kind of get to the point. We know by now, after 3 years, the reason why I continue coming here and the things that I want to talk about is the removal of cops from schools. So when talking about whether or not to keep cops in schools, the biggest question that always pops up is around mass shootings. What if someone comes to school with a gun? And I understand that this is a real concern. For us to come up with good solutions, we have to look at the root cause of these mass shootings. How are we truly going to prevent these shootings that have been executed by mostly men, white men and boys in particular? We have to approach this with a critical race, gender, and queer analysis. We live in a white heteronormative world, so if you don't fit, you get punished. And we see this in our homeless population, our underemployment numbers, our educational achievement gaps, our jail and prison population, the suicide rate, and the murder of Black trans women and other trans women of color. As gender justice organizers who provide advocacy and case management for domestic violence victims and survivors, we know that death is the ultimate control. We know that. And that in the cases of domestic violence survivors and victims, right, that they experience the highest rate of violence is when they're actually trying to leave their perpetrator. Now, how does that relate to any of this in the mass shootings? It's that, according to the Mother Jones data, among the 22 mass shooters that they analyzed, 86% of those shooters had a history of domestic abuse. 32% had a history of stalking and harassment, and 50% were specifically targeted at women. So now, how are we going to address these mass shootings? By putting more police officers into our schools? Doesn't make sense to me. What we actually need is to remove the police and really think about how are we going to transform our schools to really be about gender justice and really addressing anti-Blackness. How are we really going to hold Black girls closely into our hearts and provide them the safety that they need in the schools? So again, when we're really thinking about cops in schools and we're asking those questions and people are bringing them up, again, I push back onto you all that we have to approach it with a critical race, gender, and queer analysis.
Thank you. SY. It's SY or SI.
It's been years and nothing has changed. For all the meetings that we attended to, all you guys did was literally ignore us. We told you many times about what our school needs and what things needs to be invested in, but at the end you decided to put cops in our schools, which they do not protect but kill many students of color. Our schools are not prison where cops can just walk around with guns and badges on. We told you that we don't feel safe, so why spend so much money on one cop per high school when you can use that money for students' future? Invest that money on our lunches because everyone is in sports should be free and bus passes should be free. So stop focusing on your white students, start investing in students of color. So take cops out of school.
Thank you. Shira Adams? Shira Adams?
My name is Shira, and I'm a youth coordinator at Freedom Inc. I read this article by Mike Davis about the innocent West High School about the black security guard that got fired for saying nigger. Everybody was sharing how he should get his job back and this and that, but really they didn't look at the black youth point of view. That the youth called him, they didn't look into the point of view of the black youth that told him that he was a bitch-ass nigga. They never really looked at his point of view and seen if he needed any resources. And that's what happens a lot. And on top of that, I want to say this zero tolerance policy should be for non-black people. We as black people have the right to say, you cannot say it. I myself will say it anywhere. That shows that those resources does not go into youth, especially black youth. This black youth would have had a hard day, couldn't have had a hard day. The assistant principal could have been bothering him, or he just didn't want to talk to the teachers. Mike Davis had said in his article, let's look at the numbers. While black students only make up 18% of student population, they make up 82% of school-based arrests and 82% of school-based ticketing during the 2017 and 18 school year. Now that's full of shit because why do we make up more of the arrests than in school? Do you want us to learn, be successful, or be something? He continues, during the school year, black girls receive 35 tickets while white girls receive none. Between 2015 and 2018, black girls were arrested times while white girls were only arrested 6 times. It wouldn't feel good if your child was going through the same thing. Why put us through it? By keeping cops in. Our demands, get cops out of schools. That means completely take them out of schools. Invest into leadership, wellness, creativity for black youth of color. Youth, parents, and community members have real decision-making power over schools. Let black, brown youth learn their history and know the good things about black folks instead of the things that broke us down. use transformative justice instead of punishing youth.
Thank you. Thank you. Bianca?
So our folks, our kids, our community have been coming to the school board meetings for 3 years and doing work around ending violence that happens to Black and brown folks, queer folks, women and girls, and low-income folks for 15 years. Really 20, but we've been official for 15. We've been to numerous trainings and led our own trainings, not only in the US, but around the world. And we are experts at knowing what we're talking about when it comes to ending violence. And I say that because a lot of the rhetoric is that we show up because it's popular, because it's fun. I don't even understand that. This is not fun, it's not cute, although I think our people are cute. It's not cute, it's not fun, it's not popular. We do this because we're sick of dying, and we do this because we're sick of our children dying and our children being harmed in schools. And I know that Madison likes to think that it's progressive and liberal, but like Malcolm X said, it doesn't matter if you do it with a smile or you do it with a growl, it's still violence and you're still killing us. A recent study and documentary just came out that talked about the discipline of Black girls, and I saw that some of you shared it on your social media pages, so I would encourage us to have a conversation and get to work around that. On the nation, Black girls were twice as likely to be suspended, and in Madison it's actually no different. In Madison it's actually worse. The last school year, Black girls received more citations than any other demographic in the district. The #1 reason for citations in the district last year, in the last 3 years, and this is across all Black students, was truancy. So first of all, it's important for people to understand that truancy is not a harmless ticket. It actually leads to court dates and court fines and our kids being caught up in the system, and it's a direct link to the school to prison pipeline. Also, I think people are smart enough to understand why Black people may not go to school, why Black children may not want to go to your schools in particular. Both common sense and scientific research tells us that schools around the nation are often not a safe place for Black kids, and Madison is no different. Also, focusing on student excellence can't just be circumscribed to students who are performing well and that meet your standards. If you want excellence, then we also need to be giving resources to students that are most impacted by harmful policies, not just Black students that fit nicely into a cap and gown. The last time I was here, I asked y'all what side of history you want to be on. And I'll also ask y'all, what are you doing to make your schools a safe place for Black children? Also, as so-called feminists on this board, what are y'all doing to make schools safe for Black girls and queer folks? Are you using carceral feminism? Are you using police and harmful anti-Black policies for our girls? Or are you using visionary feminism that's focused on transformation and healing? I have my opinions, and I'm sure y'all can take a guess. But like we've been saying, our vision of safety doesn't include police. Our vision of safety is actually centered around the leadership, wellness, and creativity of all youth, right? Again, not just youth that can stand up here and make you look sexy. Our vision of safety is for police-free schools, and we need y'all to adopt and implement that vision into this district.
Thank you, Bianca. Lisa Yang.
Hello, my name is Lisa Yang, and I am a student at UW-Madison. I'm here because I have access to. Being at UW-Madison, people say we get here because of our hard work, but every single kid I went to school with deserves to eat, provide for their family, and live like how I have access to. Schools choose who they want to live, and from my experiences, I've seen black girls and boys from my elementary school experience violence in the ways that I never will have to. I have seen No Cops in Schools campaign from its beginnings. I did not feel like I understood the Madison experience or had the expertise or skills to talk about investing in black youth, but I realize now I directly gain from the disinvestment of black youth in Milwaukee Public Schools and from. I didn't connect the missing bodies that continue to drop the higher I went up to schools. I can be here in this meeting while black peers from my life must survive and pick up the pieces our school dropped on them. Just as UW-Madison kids benefit from the Black and Southeast Asian families' disempowerment in Madison, I think it's very important that we all reflect on where we come from. And as I learn about the missing people in my family and the displacement among people, anxiety and depression of my family members residing in me, the war crimes the U.S. participated in Southeast Asia are imprinted in my blood. If these traumas are imprinted in my blood, what about black students that experience cops in schools? I see cops in schools as a military occupation that brings the same traumas to black families. Yet many people don't hear the cries that from black families and what the schools do to them. Black families and their wellness matter. Investing in black youth and their communities, our life and death matters. And every dollar you pour into cops, into metal detectors, and not in what the communities know to help students thrive, is an investment towards black death and trauma. I think all the time about how a grad student told me about how in a city populated with lots of Hmong students, they still didn't have Hmong language courses, but white families wanted their kids to be bilingual, so they put in, though the Latinx population was small. White families will never have a problem with cops in schools. To invest in black kids and black families means you will never get approval from white families. And that's the one reason why you haven't done the obvious. When you support white families' interests, you will never want life for black kids and their families, and that is something that you have to recognize. We can have time to talk and speak like this. It really doesn't mean anything if that's all you give the Freedom Youth Squad. How has the school protected the interests of black and Southeast Asian youth who come out here every time to spill their traumas and to see that the decisions that you make don't reflect these communities? How have y'all shifted power so that these communities are given direct power? This model doesn't work because they always come here, but y'all never come to them and ask what they need. I can graduate and leave Madison. Y'all can leave this meeting after this hearing and hearing people speak. But the families and kids here can't. This is their lives, and it is life and death.
Thank you. MT.
No cops in schools. Cops are not trained to care for kids with disability, or actually all kids in general. It does not matter if the police are friendly. It does not matter if we have a relationship. At the end of the day, the police are following their own guidelines, which uphold racist, sexist, and homophobic ideas. The police are going to continue to protect property and cause harm on black and brown and LGBTQ people. They're not their own, or they are their own institution that operates to keep oppressive systems in place. At the end of the day, relationship building with the police is trash because no matter what, the police functions in anti-black, racist, and sexist ways. Because of that, black girls, black youth, other youth of color, LGBTQ youth, and youth with disability will be harmed by the police. That is why we need MMSD to do better. Stop wasting your time on the police that won't ever listen to you. Instead, start putting black and brown students' needs first and change the system for future generations. I believe each of you are on the board because you want better for students. So listen to Black and Southeast Asian youth that have been coming here for the last 3 years. They're telling you to do something different. You are not in the school, so listen to Black and Southeast Asian youth who are in the school daily. We are demanding that the school board completely remove the cops from schools, let students and parents and trusted adults have control over school safety, invest in leadership, creativity, and wellness of black youth and other youth of color, and use transformative justice practices instead of punishing youth.
Thank you. Monker?
Okay. Hey, everyone. Just before I start speaking, just to kind of expand upon what MT was talking about, this idea that you'll be okay if you just form relationships with cops, or like somehow they're supposed to be like support or counselors or whatever the hell else, expanding their role besides just taking our kids to prison. That feels so dirty to me. Someone who has the ability to take me to jail, to take away my freedoms, and to hurt me physically, emotionally, I'm supposed to be forming a relationship with them so I don't get beat up, or I don't get tackled, or I don't get cited, or something like that. So, I don't know, that just feels really dirty to me. So that's another reason why y'all definitely should not like invest in police. I'm just here tonight to talk about exercises and building budgets and just all the things that y'all could be doing with this money, not just what you do with like the police, but also for other disciplinary staff and programming that y'all already have going on. So in looking at the budget, in looking at how much that we have to spend for Black excellence, according to y'all, according to the district, and it's like $350,000 or something like that, so something comparable to what y'all are spending on the cop contracts. It's just so wild to me how when you look at like student safety, if that's what you're trying to address, and you all decide to throw away $360,000 on some police to pretty much escort kids into the courtroom and into jail. The approach we took was that, what are all the things that our students need to thrive? What can we do with that money? If you're thinking about safety, if you're thinking about lowering fights and incidences or whatever, arguments with kids or whatever, how do we actually like keep our schools safe? Categories, right? So we talked about how do we help them get academic fulfillment? How do we actually address, healing from trauma and resilience work? How do we look at stopping criminalization? How do we support and invest in community control? How do we invest in the leadership of Black youth and other youth of color, right? And we came up with a bunch of different proposals for every different category of that. And I was just thinking, like, what if you all also sat down and took the time to say, what do we want to do with this money besides give it to cops? What would you also come up with? What could we all come up with in this room that's actually generative and not hurting people? Because if your goal over here is to keep people safe, is to keep students safe, is to have a great environment for students, and to have like, then why would you implement something that's also hurting so many students, and especially so many Black students? If it's also doing so much harm, why not move away from it and do something different? It also occurred to me, as we're doing this like budget making process, that a lot of the goals and outcomes of these programs and projects that we're talking about it was like, oh, so that they're better equipped to deal with all the trauma that's going to be dumped on them while they're in schools. So they can better navigate like confrontation with teachers and it just makes me think, what if we didn't have to like clean up the damage that you all are already doing to them? What else could we invest money in, invest time in? We know that does is separate and isolate people. That's all it does. That's what ICE is, that's what police is, all of it. Separating and isolating folks, tearing apart families, and punishing people. How does it rebuild communities? How does it repair the harm that's been done? Let me tell you something, it doesn't. So what y'all need to be doing is taking money away from police, from all the little disciplinary programs y'all got going on right now, because I'm gonna tell you it's not working. And actually spend some time, we did that in like one night, brainstorming. Spend some time actually looking at practices that are regenerative, that actually help people heal from traumas, that help people build relationships, and that help people strive to be what they want to be, not be locked up in a cage.
Thank you. Okay, that ends our public comment portion of the meeting. Next item is board president's announcements and reports. Just want to take some time to discuss where we're at on the superintendent search update. At first I want to thank the board for taking a lot of extra time in their schedules to do this work and keep us within the timeline that we set out to accomplish. I also want to thank our staff, particularly Mike Herding and Deidre and our HR staff for helping us with the logistics throughout this process. I want to thank our community who came out during the community engagement, who gave us their feedback. We're going to use this information as we proceed through this process. So thank you very much for all those who attended the community engagement sessions. We have gotten a good result, a good group of people, over 30 applicants. 10 of them have been superintendents. Many have been assistant superintendents, and they range from all across the country. So we got some solid candidates that we can take a look at. On December 4th or December 10th, we're still finalizing when BWP, our consultants, will come in and go through the applicants with us. That meeting will be in closed session. So we're still figuring out whether December 4th, December 10th. We will keep the community updated on our progress as we move forward through this process. Questions from the board? We still on time. We are hoping to have this completed in January sometime. And so obviously we wouldn't have anybody hired, but we are still looking at that time, but hopefully somebody selected who may start in the spring or the summer months. The deadline was last night.
Yesterday, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Moving on to the superintendent's report. Looks like you want to give us an update?
The Board of Education has received a proposal to consider renaming Glendale Elementary School in honor of Dr. Virginia Henderson. Dr. Henderson was a school psychologist at Glendale Elementary from 1976 to 1991, when she then moved to the central office to serve as the special assistant to the superintendent for equity and diversity. During this time, Dr. Henderson also created the African American Ethnic Academy to recognize the capacity for excellence in African American children. Dr. Henderson retired in 1997, but remained a diversity consultant with the school district, working to eliminate racial disparities. work to all children, but she had a high commitment and a special place in her heart for children of color and students with special needs. Dr. Henderson passed away in April of 2019. Allow for a minimum of 30 days windows for public comment. Community members can submit a comment at mmsd.org/rename-Glendale, which I believe is on our home webpage now, or at an upcoming board meeting. Board President Gloria Reyes will appoint a citizens naming committee of 12 members who will meet to discuss the proposed name and any additional names that are proposed. Some flexibility is built into the timeline to allow for planning meetings and the possibility of multiple names being considered. Depending upon the number of names proposed, public comment will be sought, the final decision to be made in January, or public comment will be sought throughout January and February with a final decision to be made in February. The recommended board meeting 14 days before the board makes a final decision. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jane. Next item on the agenda is a report on items that proceeded through the instruction work group held on November 4th, 2019. Ananda?
Thank you, President Gloria. At our last instruction work group, we received a report and an update for the human growth and development that includes curriculum and practice, and we had a really good discussion and were able to give some really critical feedback on how it's been implemented, and then also offered some opportunities for the staff to continue to work and move that work. The board felt really strongly that there was we had got into a really good space and a really good efforts to update that curriculum. And then the dates for the next meeting will be December 2nd. We'll meet again. And for the next topics we'll discuss the Badger Rock Middle School charter renewal, and then we're also going to be looking at a board policy 6700. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Ananda. Report on items that proceeded through the operations work group held on November 11th, 2019.
Yep, so we met on November 11th at La Follette High School, so thank you to the team at La Follette. They did a really nice job pulling together the audio and visual, which we've struggled with in some of our schools, so it was a really nice facility for us. We did 3 things. The first was a review over some of the referendum input that we've gotten from the community so far. So thank you to Kelly and Chad and the big team that has been gathering input on the 2 potential referendum questions. I think they've met with over 30 groups at this point, have several hundred responses from a feedback form. So they gave us a bit of a halftime report, which is also circulating on social media and other sources right now. The second thing we did with respect to the referendum was give guidance to go ahead and potentially hire a construction manager to support the process of gearing up to get ready in the event that that. Last thing we did was we began the process of discussing our 2020-2021 budget. Very first discussion with many, many more to come. So, our next meeting is likely to be in January. Which will give the team some time to prepare again to support both of those discussions. So we'll keep those 2 topics through all of our meetings for the coming 6 months at least. So yeah, we don't have a date set for that one though. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Next, action items that proceeded through the instruction work group held on November 4th. There were no action items. Next item is action items that proceeded through the operations work group. No action items. Next is we moved on to the consent agenda. I do want to, before we get into the consent agenda, I want to move the purchase of the Holtzman Road property to the December 9th Operations Work Group agenda. We received some questions, concerns from our community about wanting more information, some more community engagement. So we're going to take the Operations Work Group next one to discuss it thoroughly, and then it'll come back to the regular board meeting for a vote after that.
So we're going to convert the December one to a special meeting.
It'll be the December meeting
that's
converted into a special meeting.
Just want to be clear.
Any questions from the board on that? Okay. All right. So let's go ahead.
Comment. Can we also publicize that meeting more on our website? I know had a lot of people write in saying they didn't know when it was being discussed and they were confused by it. So I was wondering if we could just put out, we're meeting at this place at this time. I know we meet at the same one, but for new people, that might be helpful.
Sure. Yeah, we'll try to get extra information out for people so that they know we'll be discussing that in a special meeting in December. Okay? All right. So it is recommended that the Board of Education adopt and approve all the motions set forth in Section 10 of the electronic agenda prepared for the November 25th, 2019 regular board meeting, exactly as said motions are written. By voting affirmatively on this motion, a board member expresses his or her affirmative vote on each of the motions consolidated hereby, subject to any express separations that have been made by any member of the school board. I do want to separate 10.13. Any other separations?
Yes, I got to get the number, pardon me. I would like to separate 10.11.
Separate 10.10 and 10.12. 10.10 and 10.12. Any other separations? Okay. Move that we approve other items, the rest of the consent items on the agenda. Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Advisory vote.
Oh, advisory vote, I'm sorry, Anika. Aye. I'll get that straight, probably. Yeah. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, any opposed? All right, so let's start with Jane Belmore, if you can discuss the MG&E item.
Basically, I just wanted to say this program is an opportunity for the board to make some movement toward their goal of carbon-free by 2024. It's a small step, but a mighty step and a good step forward. So might have some other comments on that.
Any other comments?
Yeah, maybe I'll just second that. I know there's a big team, including many students and families and staff that have advocated for us to be more proactive with respect to renewable energy, and that this was the right time to do it. So I'm mostly really grateful for the team that has been supporting us in this work, and excited that we have the opportunity to make this investment in a renewable energy future in our schools.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really just separated it so we could have the discussion. I think it's really good news for us. Yeah. So anybody else have anything on this?
Have already said in terms of this being a really positive partnership and a really exciting opportunity for us to invest in a renewable future. And I think it allows for us to address some of the real concerns of our young people who have shown up and marched over and over again and advocated over and over again that we acknowledge climate change and we be proactive in addressing it. So I think it makes sense to recognize the leadership of our young people on this particular issue, and also let our young people know to continue pushing the board to do better, because we are listening and paying attention and grateful for this opportunity.
Great. Okay. All right, the next item, which is the Wisconsin Department of Public Instruction DPI grant. Was that you? We can vote on all together at the end. Right? Don't we usually vote on them?
Why don't we do it one by one?
Okay.
Because people have different.
Okay. Let's go ahead. So I move to approve 10.13. Ananda, did you have something?
Second.
Okay.
Yeah, I should, what is it, excuse my thought?
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, we haven't gotten that. We're going to approve 10.13, the MG&E. So I got a second. Anika, your advisory vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, 10.3 passes. Let's move on to 10.10.
So 10.10 is a grant from the Department of Public Instruction to send some of our staff to the Quality Matters Standards Institute to get some professional development and professional learning. And I have no problem with using a grant from DPI to do what we said we'd do with the grant, so I support this. But I think this is an opportunity to raise questions about what we're hoping to do as an outcome of all of this training, which is that we're hoping to develop a Standards Institute for MMSD that would then become mandatory professional development for our staff, both new teachers and existing teachers. And again, professional development's a good thing to do, but this is feeling very, very top down to me. Like we're sending a group that's mostly administrators to a meeting and they're gonna come back and redo that meeting and all our staff will be required to go. And this is at a time when we're hearing from staff that they've got a lot of initiative fatigue going on and they'd really like to be able to. I would just like to put out there that I would like to know how this Standards Institute work will fit with other professional development that our staff are doing and complement it rather than compete with it for their time and their attention. And I'd like to know how the staff will be involved in evaluating how our overall PD program is meeting the needs of kids in the district as well as their own needs professionally. So just a couple things to follow up the work that's happening with the Standards Institute to make sure that we're using the information effectively and in a way that really respects the knowledge and experience that many of our teachers bring to instruction.
We'll follow up on that.
You follow up on that?
Yeah.
Anything else on that? All right. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve an expenditure in the amount of $60,950 for consulting services and event facilitation with Unbounded to be funded by the 2019-2020 DPI Standards Institute grant. Anika, your advisory vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
I abstain.
You're abstained, okay. Barb, did you get that? Yep. Okay, next item is 10.11.
The reason I pulled 10.11 is not that I'm against an external evaluation. I pulled it because I'm seriously worried on our special ed issues and not blaming the district, frankly, and blaming the fact that the state didn't have an increase in 10 years, which causes a stress on everyone. But the problem is I think we need to look at, that needs to be asked, and it should be asked, at least in the report, are we meeting our IDEA requirements? Are we making sure that it's the least restrictive environment? Those are two things that I'm really worried that we're not meeting. As a disability attorney and as an individual with special needs, those areas are critical. And I'm afraid we're going to get another report that will tell us, okay, you need to improve, but it won't tell us how or where. And I think I need some more specifics on that, on how we can make sure that people are in the least restrictive environment as often as possible, as stated under 300.114 subsection B, as stated by IDEA law, and also as stated by the Wisconsin State Constitution. Those are my big ones. I've heard a lot, not just from Lowell, I've heard from multiple schools, teachers saying, we're trying, but we don't have enough hours in the day to provide special education with as many kids as we have due to the SEA shortage. I don't know how to fix that. I really don't. I'll admit I wish I was a genius, had a magic lamp and everything, but I don't. But very simply, the law, whether we can meet it or not is a very different question, but I want to do everything we can to get as close as we possibly can.
Kate?
Yeah, Nikki, I think you raised an interesting point, and I just wanted to make a comment. We make one external program evaluation every year, and it's a significant investment of both money and time on our staff part. I wonder if we might have an opportunity to engage around what we're hoping to get out of that report ahead of time versus kind of the delivery of the final report. I think it just might help align expectations all the way through, and we can be one small set of stakeholders. I know there's many, many more staff people that engage, but it might kind of make that even more useful exercise. So,
Jane, did you want to?
Yeah, I think these are very good points and things that we're also wondering about in the district and wanting to have, addressed through this report. So I think it's great. We all seem to be pretty much on the same page with that. And I think we can accommodate getting, more input from the board as we move along with this.
That would be really helpful, because that's like one of the number one things I'm hearing from not just parents, but teachers.
Ali?
I think the benefit of an external evaluation is that we do get a chance to deep dive and examine best practices and examine the areas in which we are in compliance and the areas in which we have space for growth. I don't think we can be kind of presumptive about what the outcome of an evaluation will be before we have it, and I think our ability to access kind of internal evaluations or, kind of folks on the ground saying this is my need within this specific classroom with this specific student is different than kind of the broader, more synthesized variety of what are we doing in general as a district and what are the outcomes our approaches are producing. And so I'm excited to have that level of analysis, and I think it speaks to what Nikki was speaking to specifically, allows us to examine, and I greatly appreciate Kate's point about being able to steer the inquiry of the evaluation so that it's utilized to the greatest degree possible. And so I'm in favor of the external evaluation, and I appreciate the points of my colleagues.
Great. Anything else? All right. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the selection of West Ed of our special education plan, programs and services for a cost not to exceed $100,000 with funding from the 2019-2020 Teaching and Learning Administrative Budget. Anika, your advisory vote? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Next item is 10.12.
So this is a web-based staffing allocation tool that we've been working on and we want to make some more investments in, and I think that's all good. I wanted to put out there that often in the process of working on the budget, we ask for equity charts, which are basically charts that show staffing by school as well as enrollment by school. And this is a tool that can really help us make better decisions about budgeting, and we usually don't get it until April. And so I'm wondering if some of the improvements that we're making to this site would enable us to have access to the information that's in the equity charts, budget discussions, so that when we're looking at staffing, we actually have a better sense of what's going on in our schools now, so we can make better decisions about the future. So I just wanted to put out there that kind of transparency and information would be incredibly helpful to the board.
Thanks, Chris. Unfortunately, no, this tool does not do the equity tool charts. The equity tool charts have to be manually done because of kind of the complexity with our current system. And so the reason we have to do it is we have to wait till all of the workbooks are done. What this process does is it creates the workbooks. So it creates all of our staffing models across the school and puts them into individual school a process so that the principals can allocate staff by grade level, by certification. So it gives you people, it gives you their certification, their experience, so principals can make good instructional design decisions about where staff goes. The equity chart process happens after all the staff are in schools, after the enrollment counts are done, so we get final enrollments for the year, and then we run the equity tool charts. So the equity tool charts come later because it's based on an enrollment number, and that enrollment number gets finalized the third Friday in September.
Any other questions, or did you?
Yeah, thank you for that information. The tool does